The gentle deception. The Galactic Council's archives would later record it as the most profound miscalculation in recorded history. When the deep space sensors of the Zelvari Empire detected radio signals from a small blue planet in the unfashionable western spiral arm of the galaxy, nobody expected anything remarkable. Just another primitive civilization broadcasting its existence into the void, unaware of the dangers that lurked between the stars. Ambassador Crexitheta of the Zelvari stood before the council, his forearms folded in the traditional gesture of superiority. The Zelvari were among the oldest spacefaring races, having conquered or absorbed 17 lesser civilizations over the past 3 millennia. Their crystalline bodies reflected the harsh lights of the council chamber as he spoke. The signals indicate a Type 0.7 civilization on the Kardashev scale. They call themselves humans and their world Earth. Their broadcasts show a species barely capable of leaving their own atmosphere. They fight among themselves with chemical explosives and primitive nuclear weapons. They are divided into hundreds of separate governing bodies. By all metrics, they are centuries away from becoming a legitimate spacefaring threat. The council murmured its agreement. The Urathi representative, a being of pure energy contained within a mechanical shell, pulsed with amusement. Another species to catalog and monitor. Perhaps in 1,000 cycles they might be worthy of uplift or conquest. But Crexitheta had other plans. The Zelvari Empire had grown stagnant, its military forces restless without a proper conquest in over a century. These humans, with their valuable blue world rich in water and biodiversity, would make an excellent addition to the Empire's collection of servant races. I propose first contact, Crexitheta announced. The Zelvari Empire will assess these humans directly. If they prove useful, we will guide them into the galactic community under our protection. If not, their resources will serve the greater good of the Empire. The motion passed without significant opposition. After all, what harm could a primitive species possibly pose to the might of the Zelvari? The first contact vessel, a sleek destroyer-class ship named Inevitable Dawn, dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system 3 cycles later. Captain Vexara, a veteran of 12 successful first contacts, reviewed the data her scouts had gathered. Humans had detected their arrival almost immediately, their primitive radio telescopes and orbital satellites turning toward the hyperspace exit point with surprising coordination. They react quickly for primitives, noted her science officer Thekvil, but their response appears to be purely defensive. Multiple communication attempts on various electromagnetic frequencies. They seem eager to talk. Vexara's crystalline form hummed with satisfaction. Eager species were always easier to subjugate. They practically welcomed their conquerors with open arms, too naive to understand the fate that awaited them. The human response came in the form of a transmission, broadcast in perfect Zelvari standard dialect. Greetings, visitors from beyond our solar system. We are humanity, and we welcome you to our corner of the galaxy. We have prepared a delegation to meet with you at your convenience. May this be the first step toward a lasting friendship between our peoples. The bridge crew exchanged glances of surprise. How had these primitives learned their language so quickly? Thekvil ran another scan. Captain, I'm detecting no universal translators. They appear to have decoded our language from our own transmissions during our approach. Interesting, but not unprecedented. Several species had shown remarkable linguistic adaptability. It was merely another resource to be exploited. Vexara authorized the meeting, agreeing to receive the human delegation aboard the Inevitable Dawn. The human shuttle that approached was almost laughably primitive. Chemical rockets, basic heat shielding, no weapons worth mentioning. It docked with careful precision, and 5 humans emerged into the Zelvari ship's reception bay. They wore simple fabric pressure suits, their faces visible through transparent helmets. They moved with the careful, slightly clumsy gait of beings unaccustomed to artificial gravity, different from their own. The lead human, a middle-aged female with graying hair, removed her helmet once the atmospheric readings confirmed compatibility. She smiled, an expression Vexara had learned indicated pleasure or submission in many mammalian species. I am Director Sarah Chen of the United Nations First Contact Committee. We are honored to meet you, Captain Vexara. She performed a curious gesture, extending her hand forward. Vexara recognized it from the human broadcasts as a handshake, a primitive ritual of greeting. She extended one of her 4 crystalline appendages, allowing the soft, warm flesh of the human to grip it briefly. The human's hand was surprisingly strong for such a fragile-looking being. "You have learned our language remarkably quickly," Vexara noted, leading the delegation to the prepared meeting chamber. Director Chen smiled again. "We are eager students, Captain. When we detected your approach, every linguist and codebreaker on Earth worked together to understand your communications. We believe that communication is the foundation of understanding." How quaint, how utterly naive. Vexara settled into her position at the head of the table, her crew flanking her. The humans sat across from them, their soft bodies looking even more vulnerable in the harsh lighting of the Zelvari ship. "Tell us about your world, Director Chen," Vexara commanded. "The Zelvari Empire is always interested in meeting new species." For the next several hours, the humans presented their civilization. They spoke of their history, their art, their music, their dreams of exploring the stars. They showed images of their cities, their landscapes, their children playing in parks. They talked about their struggles with disease, with poverty, with environmental damage to their world. They presented themselves as exactly what the Zelvari expected, a young, struggling species taking its first tentative steps toward the stars. But Vexara noticed things, small things, the way Director Chen's eyes tracked every movement of the Zelvari crew, the way the quiet human in the back, introduced simply as Observer Johnson, never stopped watching, never stopped recording with some primitive optical device. The way their questions, seemingly innocent and curious, probed for very specific information about Zelvari technology, fleet positions, and political structures. "You have been most informative," Vexara said as the meeting concluded. "We will need to report back to our empire. Perhaps you would accept a delegation visit to your Earth, to better understand your people and their natural environment?" Director Chen's smile widened. "We would be honored, Captain. We have prepared a reception site that we believe will be comfortable for your physiology, shall we say 1 week from now in our time measurement?" The arrangements were made quickly. As the human delegation departed, Vexara turned to Thekvil. "Your analysis?" "They are exactly as they appear, Captain. Primitive, eager, naive. Their weapons are 2 centuries behind our basic defensive systems. Their ships can barely achieve 10% of light speed. They have no shields, no hyperspace capability, no energy weapons. They are herbivores surrounded by predators, and they don't even know it." Vexara's form pulsed with satisfaction. "Prepare the annexation protocols. After our visit to Earth, we will make them an offer of protection under the Empire. They will accept, or they will be conquered. Either way, Earth will serve the Zelvari within the cycle." 1 week later, the Zelvari delegation descended to Earth. The landing site was in what the humans called Switzerland, a politically neutral location that seemed to hold some significance for them. The reception was almost absurdly elaborate, with representatives from every major human government present. They had constructed a building specifically for this meeting, with atmospheric controls that could accommodate multiple species. The humans showed them their cities, their art museums, their schools. They took them to see their primitive space station, where human scientists conducted experiments in microgravity. They demonstrated their culture, their music, their food, everything exactly what a primitive species would do when trying to impress their betters. But again, those small things nagged at Vexara. The way human children in the schools watched the Zelvari with curiosity but not fear. The way military vehicles were always just barely visible at the edge of every venue, painted white and marked with medical symbols, but moving with too much precision for medical transports. The way every human they met seemed to know exactly who they were, what they were, despite this supposedly being first contact. On the 3rd day of the visit, Vexara decided to test something. During a tour of a human military museum, showcasing their primitive wars and weapons, she deliberately knocked over a display case containing what the humans called medals of honor. The crash was tremendous, ancient metals scattering across the floor. Every human in the room froze. For just a moment, perhaps 2 heartbeats, Vexara saw something else in their eyes. Not anger, not fear, but calculation. Cold, precise calculation. Then Director Chen laughed, a sound that somehow didn't reach her eyes. "Accidents happen, Captain. These old displays are quite fragile. Please don't concern yourself." As human staff rushed to clean up the debris, Vexara noticed one young human soldier in dress uniform carefully collecting each medal, his hands shaking not with fear but with barely controlled rage. Director Chen placed a hand on the soldier's shoulder. whispered something in his ear. The soldier nodded, his expression becoming carefully neutral. That night, in their provided accommodations, Vexara met with her delegation. "Something is wrong here," she stated flatly. "These humans are not what they appear to be." "Captain," Thekvil protested, "all our scans confirm their technology level. They have no advanced weapons, no energy shields, no faster-than-light capability. What could they possibly be hiding?" Before Vexara could respond, every light in the building went out simultaneously. Emergency lighting kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in a red glow. Director Chen's voice came over the communication system. "Captain Vexara, we apologize for the power fluctuation. We're experiencing some technical difficulties. For your safety, please remain in your quarters until we resolve the issue." Through the window, Vexara could see the entire city had gone dark, but in the distance she could see lights moving. Thousands of lights converging on their location. Military vehicles, she realized. Not the white medical transports, but dark machines that moved with purpose and coordination. The power returned 30 minutes later. Director Chen appeared at their door personally, her expression apologetic but her eyes holding something else. "I'm so sorry for the inconvenience, Captain. An old power grid, you understand. Shall we continue tomorrow's cultural exchange?" That night, Vexara made a decision. She sent a coded message to the inevitable dawn in orbit. "Begin Phase 2. Test these humans' true nature. If they were hiding something, a small show of force would reveal it." The mask falls away the next morning. As the Zelvari delegation prepared for another day of cultural exchange, alarms began screaming across the human city. The inevitable dawn had moved from its peaceful orbit to a position directly above the meeting site. Its weapon systems active and targeting locks engaged on major population centers across the globe. Vexara stood in the meeting hall, her crystalline form radiating authority as Director Chen and her team rushed in. The human's face was carefully controlled, but Vexara could see the rapid pulse in her throat, the slight dilation of her pupils. "Captain Vexara," Director Chen said slowly, "your ship appears to be experiencing some kind of malfunction. Its weapon systems have activated." "No malfunction, Director," Vexara replied smoothly. "Simply a demonstration. You see, the Zelvari Empire has decided that Earth would benefit from our protection. You will cease all independent space activity and submit to Zelvari governance. In return, we will protect you from the many dangers of the galaxy. Refuse, and we will be forced to demonstrate why the Zelvari Empire has never lost a conquest." The room fell silent. The human delegation exchanged glances, and then something extraordinary happened. Director Chen laughed. Not the polite, diplomatic laugh from before, but genuine, deep laughter that echoed through the chamber. "Oh, Captain," she said, wiping tears from her eyes. "We were really hoping you wouldn't do this. We tried so hard to give you an out." The lights in the room dimmed and holographic displays materialized around the walls. Not the primitive projections the humans had shown before, but perfect three-dimensional images that required technology far beyond what Earth supposedly possessed. "Let me introduce myself properly," Director Chen said, her entire demeanor changing. The slight stoop was gone, the careful deference evaporated. She stood straighter and her eyes held a hardness that had been carefully hidden before. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen, Strategic Command, Earth Defense Force, and you, Captain, have just made the same mistake that 17 other species made before you." The holograms showed images that made Vexara's quantum processors stutter. Massive shipyards hidden in hollowed-out asteroids, fleet formations of vessels that looked primitive on the outside, but whose energy signatures revealed weapons that violated 3 different galactic treaties, human soldiers in power armor that should have been centuries beyond their capability, training in environments that simulated the homeworlds of every known galactic species. "You see," Admiral Chen continued, "humanity learned something important from our own history. The appearance of weakness is often the greatest strength. We've been listening to your galactic communications for 50 years. We know about every species, every empire, every strength and weakness. We chose to appear primitive because it lets us see who you really are." Thekvil's scanner was going wild. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy signatures appearing all around Earth. Ships? Hundreds of ships decloaking. They were there all along, we just couldn't see them." Through the window, Vexara watched as the sky filled with human vessels. Not the primitive chemical rocket ships they had shown, but sleek predators that rippled with barely contained energy. The inevitable dawn, mighty destroyer of the Zelvari fleet, was suddenly surrounded by dozens of human ships that had been hiding in plain sight. Your empire enslaves 17 species, Admiral Chen said, her voice hard. You destroy cultures, strip worlds of resources, and call it protection. We've watched you, Captain. We've watched all of you, and we decided that the galaxy needs better shepherds. Vexara's communication implant crackled to life. Captain Hextor of the Inevitable Dawn was screaming. Captain! They're inside our systems. I don't know how, but they're inside everything. Weapons won't respond, shields are failing. The transmission cut off. On the holographic display, Vexara watched her mighty destroyer go dark. Its weapons powering down, its engines failing. Tiny human shuttles swarmed it like insects on a corpse, but she knew they weren't shuttles. They were boarding craft filled with human soldiers who had trained for this exact moment. We could destroy you, Admiral Chen said simply. Your ship, your empire, everything you've built. Our analysis suggests it would take approximately 7 days to completely dismantle the Zelvari military infrastructure. But you see, Captain, that's not who we choose to be. She gestured and the holograms changed. They showed human ships arriving at the enslaved worlds of the Zelvari Empire. Not as conquerors, but as liberators. They showed human teachers working with species that had been forbidden education. Human doctors treating diseases that the Zelvari had allowed to spread to keep populations manageable. Humanity has a saying, Captain. Speak softly and carry a big stick. We offered you friendship. We showed you our art, our culture, our children. Not as a sign of weakness, but to show you what we value. You chose to see weakness where there was kindness. You chose to threaten our children. The temperature in the room seemed to drop, though the environmental controls hadn't changed. Every human in the room had the same expression now. The mask of friendliness completely gone, replaced by something far more terrifying. Disappointment. Your empire ends today, Admiral Chen announced. Not in fire and death, but in revelation. Every enslaved species in your domain is receiving a broadcast right now, showing them this conversation, showing them that their gods are nothing more than bullies who finally picked on someone who could fight back. Your technology will fail, your control will crumble, and you will watch as the species you enslaved surpass you. Vexara's form flickered with rage. You dare threaten the Zelvari Empire? We have conquered stars. We have ruled for millennia. You ruled in a small pond, Admiral Chen replied, and you never noticed the ocean beyond it. Humanity has been in space for 200 years, Captain. We just let you believe we'd been here for 20. We have colonies in 12 galaxies. We have defense pacts with species you've never heard of, because they learned to hide from predators like you. She walked closer to Vexara, close enough that the Zelvari could see her own reflection in the human's eyes. But here's the real secret, Captain. We're not conquering you. We're not enslaving you. We're giving you a choice. Join the real galactic community, one based on mutual respect and cooperation. Or isolate yourselves on your homeworld and watch as the galaxy moves on without you. The lights in the room returned to normal. Outside, the human ships began to disperse, fading back into their cloaking fields. On the Inevitable Dawn, human soldiers were already working alongside captured Zelvari crew, showing them the truth of their empire's crimes, offering them the chance to be part of something better. Why? Vexara asked, her voice barely a whisper. Why show mercy to those who would have shown you none? Admiral Chen smiled, and this time it was genuine. Because, Captain, the greatest victory isn't in defeating your enemy. It's in turning them into a friend. Humanity learned that lesson through thousands of years of blood and tears. We chose to become something better than our past. Now you have the same choice. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. Oh, and Captain? Those medals you knocked over yesterday? They belong to humans who died protecting others, who chose sacrifice over survival. That soldier who cleaned them up? His great-grandfather earned one of those medals by throwing himself on a grenade to save his squad. You thought our reverence for those pieces of metal was primitive ancestor worship, but it's not about the metal. It's about remembering that true strength isn't in the ability to conquer, it's in the choice to protect. As the human delegation left, Vexara stood alone in the room, her entire worldview shattered. The Zelvari Empire, which had seemed so mighty just hours ago, was revealed as nothing more than a cosmic bully that had finally encountered someone willing to stand up to it. Within a cycle, the Zelvari Empire had dissolved, not through violence but through revelation. The enslaved species, empowered by human technology and protected by human ships, declared their independence. The Zelvari, stripped of their slave labor and forced to face the consequences of their actions, had to learn to survive on their own merits for the first time in millennia. And humanity? They returned to their primitive little world, broadcasting their simple radio signals into the void. They maintained their facade of being a young species just learning about the universe. But now every species in the galaxy knew the truth. The humans weren't the monsters hiding in the dark between the stars. They were the guardians, watching, waiting, ready to bare their fangs only when the innocent were threatened. Years later, when new species were discovered, they would receive two first contact protocols. The official one from the Galactic Council, welcoming them to the community of worlds, and an unofficial one, a whispered warning passed between species. Be kind to the humans. They prefer to be friends. You don't want to see what happens when they decide to be enemies. The greatest illusion humanity ever performed wasn't hiding their technology or their military might. It was convincing the galaxy that they were harmless while remaining the most dangerous species in known space. Not because of their weapons or their ships, but because they had learned the most powerful lesson any species could learn. True strength comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the choice to show mercy. In the end, the Zelvari captain's report to what remained of her government contained only one line. We thought we were meeting sheep. We were meeting sleeping dragons who chose to dream of peace. And in the schools of Earth, human children continued to learn about art and music and literature, to play in parks and dream of the stars. But they also learned the most important lesson their species had to teach. Be gentle with those who are weaker. Be kind to those who are different. But never, ever let anyone threaten the innocent, because a humanity pushed to violence is a humanity the galaxy isn't ready to face. The illusion of innocence remained, carefully maintained, lovingly preserved, not as a deception but as a choice to be better, to be kinder, to be the species that the galaxy needed, even if it wasn't the species the galaxy expected. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, human ships continued their silent vigil, invisible and patient, waiting for the next would-be conqueror to make the same fatal mistake, confusing gentleness with weakness, mistaking kindness for naivety, and failing to realize that the most dangerous predator is the one that chooses not to hunt.